Wednesday morning, and let's roll. We begin with this. Saints quarterback Drew Brees will be sending his scans to other medical specialists for a second opinion as he seeks to determine the full scope of his chest injuries. Tests performed earlier this week reveal Brees has multiple fractured ribs on both sides of his chest and suffered a collapsed lung. So obviously, serious stuff here. What is the latest? He's looking for a second opinion. What are we expecting?
They're trying to get a sense of timetable for when they might be able to reasonably expect him back. As we discussed yesterday, you have to prepare for him missing at least 2 or 3 weeks here. They haven't yet put him on injured reserve. This year, if you go on injured reserve, you have to miss at least 3 games. So depending on what comes back, they'll make a decision about what to do about that. If they know he's going to miss 3 or more games, they'll put him on injured reserve, give themselves the roster flexibility. If they think there's a chance he comes back sooner than that, then you might not see them make that move. So we'll know more when these tests come back. Our Ed Werder reporting on this obviously has had a lot of detail. We'll continue to follow him. But, yeah, he's waiting to see what he can expect in terms of a healing timetable, which really varies from patient to patient with injuries.
But to be clear, I mean, the notion that he wouldn't miss 3 weeks with this would be very optimistic, right?
Very optimistic. It's unlikely that it would be that soon. And it's important, I think, for people who are listening to understand that. Unlikely it would be that soon. But again, they don't know. They're trying to get a better sense of it, and these second opinions that come back should help with that.
So that leaves Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, and we'll see exactly how they decide to do it. Let me bring the guys in here and figure out what we can expect. Again, Neek and RC and David Pollack. And RC, I will just start with you because this is a team that is somewhat near and dear to your heart, at least geographically. If this team has to play without Drew Brees for an extended period of time, they were unbeaten without him last year. Can they do that again?
Mm-hmm. I think they can. I think they can be really good, but also think that they can be really different. I mean, take it back to about 1997 in the Minnesota Vikings when Brad Johnson went out and Randall Cunningham became the starting quarterback. It changed the entire dynamic of that offense. They were explosive. They pushed the ball down the field. They got a little bit more exciting, and he didn't have some of these skilled players like the Alvin Kamara in the backfield. Obviously, he had the weapons on the outside. I'm expecting Jameis Winston to have to learn a little bit of the old with the new. If you're Sean Payton, you want a little bit of the old Jameis Winston. You want a guy that can push it down the seam to Jared Cook, get it outside to Emmanuel Sanders and to Michael Thomas. But you also want him to understand if you don't have that right away, if you don't have the matchup, you have guys like Alvin Kamara that you can check the ball down to. I believe that the Saints can be very good offensively through these weeks without Drew Brees. I believe they can be unpredictable. I believe they can be explosive. So you can't count the Saints out and just think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to move in and take over the NFC South when you have an experienced quarterback like Jameis Winston with a great coach like Sean Payton.
I get it. I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying. In that circumstance, that was Brad Johnson, and Randall Cunningham basically took over the job. This is Drew Brees we're talking about. So I want to make sure that I'm not hearing you say that if Jameis Winston plays really well, that might wind up being his team going into the playoffs, even if Brees is healthy. That would be completely out of the question, right?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is this offense can be that type of explosive now with a different quarterback with a different skill set.
I get it. But clearly it would then revert, right, Neek? I'm looking at the look on your face.
Yeah, I mean, if they become explosive, it's going to be hard to go back with Drew Brees because one thing they are not under the current Drew Brees iteration is explosive. So I think that they don't need very much from Jameis. What they got from Teddy Bridgewater last year was about average quarterback play, which was good enough with that defense that they had. Now that their defense is starting to play a lot better than it has in the early parts of the season, I think that Jameis doesn't have to do very much. But under Sean Payton, I think maybe Jameis can achieve some higher level of learning and will allow him to execute in a way that we're not used to because we know he had 3 coordinators and 3 coaches down in Tampa Bay in that situation, and it didn't work out for him despite the fact that he was really great in moments and really bad. Figure out how to eliminate the bad is going to be the hard part, and that's the task for Sean Payton because he's not like Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is a lot more careful with the ball than Jameis. Frankly, just about everybody is a lot more careful with the ball than Jameis.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater is a lot more like Drew Brees. There was a real similarity there, and so it made sense that would work, that you would just, one guy would step in and take over. David, this is obviously entirely different. You're bringing in a guy who at least the body of his work to this point has been the opposite of Drew Brees and Teddy Bridgewater. How good do you expect them to be with Jameis at quarterback, David?
First of all, I got a kick out of the way you introduced it. You were just like, hey, fractured ribs, collapsed lungs, maybe 3 weeks we'll see him again. I mean, that's just crazy talk that we're talking like that. But, listen, when you look at this offense last year, 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater, look who they play the next 4 weeks. You're going to get the Falcons twice. You're going to get the Broncos. Obviously, those are going to be wins. You've seen them play this season. So the Eagles, we've seen them. That's a win. And then they play the Chiefs. And they were going to lose that with Drew Brees regardless. So I think this offense is more about Sean Payton, the weapons. But what Neek said, I am very interested to see, because right now it's dink and dunk galore with Drew Brees. He doesn't throw the football down the field. Jameis maybe stretches it. Maybe Sean Payton has a little bit more fun and does some different things. And you got to wait for that turnover bug with Jameis Winston, because it comes. It's kind of just a matter of when.
If the coach is having fun with Jameis Winston throwing the ball down the field, he'd be the first one.